Week 1 of Reset-ember, The Reveal. Grim Owl and Lady Reaper with Brandon Robinson. What fun that was. Thank you, Brandon, for joining me for the reveal of Grim Owl and Lady Reaper. And in that video, I said that Josiah would be here this week, and we teased the Uniter and the Unhinged. So after the ad read and after the open rolls, Josiah will be here, and we will talk about this upcoming comic series from Gamble Comics. Whether it's your first time here or you're a regular here at Mr. Super Oz, I just want to thank you for tuning in to the channel. It exists because I, Oz, from the channel Mr. Super Oz, I wrote a 68-page graphic novel called Everlasting Survivors. Volume 1 is called All Day Long. If you follow the link in the description of this video, you can get yourself hats, shirts, posters, all kinds of fun things. But most importantly, you can get the story itself. And the more people that pick up the story, the greater the chances are that there can be continued adventures with these heroes. If you could, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment, enjoy. Josiah, thank you for joining me for this Reset-ember, The Reveal for the Uniter and The Unhinged. And more importantly, thank you for reading issue 1, because I experienced the difficulty of going it alone when talking about BC Brute before I introduced Aaron to the channel. And so with that, I thought, well, you and Brandon already are kind of a sounding board for me, and I already have you guys look over the scripts to see how you feel, if everything, because sometimes I in my head it feels good, and then other times I'm like, oh, I'm so lost in the sauce that I better get some help here and see if people agree that it's quality stuff. And so I appreciate you taking the time
for sure
and reading the story so as to make it more conversational for this video.
Absolutely happy to do so.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like these two heroes, they originally were conceived of when I met two people. We'll call them friends. Yeah,
I'm about to say
we're not nearly as close as we once were, because that's how time works. Yeah. But at the time, while I was going to Ohio University, I met two people, and they had such contrary perspectives, but shared the commonality of believing they knew the answers. So that is such a fun
dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the contrast between one person who at the time, and I don't mean any offensiveness, but he always had all these shirts that said, Jesus is my space, and things of that nature, where kind of like how Shawn Michaels had his Bible verse on his shirt when he returned at SummerSlam
yes.
02.
The second coming of Michaels.
There you go. And then conversely, there was another student who attended who would adamantly tell everyone how that not only is he an atheist, but he is absolutely correct in his exactly in his perspective on things. Because the first time I started writing this story, the Uniter was the only hero in the story, and I knew something was missing. I just felt like it was too dry, too bland, too
straightforward,
incomplete. Straightforward is also a good way of looking at it. And then when it hit me, as I'm thinking it out, when I'm laying it all out, I was like, what I need is that contrast. Have you ever experienced that type of certainty in your goings on?
So for me personally, it's very rare that I'm like 1,000% like confident, like I have this overabundant.
Oh, I don't
overabundance
mean
of-
you, but like, have you bumped into people with
Oh
that?
yeah, okay. Yes.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like
not
that.
me personally,
Yeah,
but I have met people. I'm like, wow, you're so gung ho and so sure that you're 100% right. It's always funny when they end up being wrong and just how they react and how they
yeah, exactly.
like even when they're wrong, they still like, well, okay, even if I was wrong, like I was still pretty much right
Oh, I love
about
it.
the situation. So yeah, I have met people like that. So, and I did get that energy from both these characters in vastly different ways, obviously.
Right, and I appreciate that. I do, because I actually think that I gave The Unhinged.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I gave his character less of an ego in the story than I felt like the inspiration for the character had in real life.
Wow.
And don't get me wrong, he is a good person because like we got along. I'm not saying that his confidence was bad. It was just surprising.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because generally for me, I try to be open to people's perspectives as to not be abrasive. And so when I spend time with people who are so certain, there are times when I'm like, is this really the best choice?
Right.
But nah, I really I found myself while writing these two polar opposite characters enthralled in how the atheist character, he is so in love with his girlfriend Faith that he basically makes her his world, whereas
Joy.
yeah, the Uniter, she, while not asexual, is not going out of her way to focus on the world we live in because her focus is all
The next life.
exactly otherworldly. And so I didn't even set out to do that. It was only upon the completion of issue 1 that I even realized that I was doing that. And I actually amuse myself when these accidental
happenings happen.
yeah, things that I didn't set out to do it, but when it fits it's just right, then I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't an accident at all.
I think that's just a byproduct of like good storytelling, you know.
Oh,
Like,
thanks, yeah.
Like it just naturally bleeds into that without you meaning to do it. I think it helps it come across more natural to the reader.
Yes, yep.
As opposed to like, okay, he's trying to force this idea, and that's not because especially when I was reading, I'm like, okay, so the Unhinged is clearly more focused on the world he's living in, whereas Uniter's more next life, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Based on their beliefs, why they would think that way.
Absolutely.
And it comes across naturally on the page, or at least on the script anyway.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Yeah. So another thing I wanted to do for both characters is, yes, they have different outlooks and perspectives, but they also, I wanted to make it clear that they both are looking out for what they perceive to be the good or the right.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I put both heroes in situations that make it to where they have to stand up and
do the right thing.
Well, not just the right thing, but to live out what you think is correct.
Practice what you preach.
Exactly, practice what you preach. That's a great way of putting it. I'm going to. Here's the thing. This whole Reset-ember the reveal gimmick is an exercise in my personal showing faith that things are going to work out, right?
Yeah.
Because for years, I was very closed off and said, "Oh well, I have an idea, but I don't want to tell people because excuse, right?"
Right.
But these videos in this series are going to be explicitly done as a show of faith that I believe that they will come to pass.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm going to talk about one. So each one of the characters, the Uniter and the Unhinged, they both have 3 primary changes that occur within this story, and they're based around their characteristics that they already have, except now they're heightened. And so, one of which powers that Joy the Uniter gets is something I call enlightenment, where it's like the inverse of Ghost Rider's penance stare. So instead of her being able to show you all the bad you've done, she can enlighten you to all the good that you are capable of doing. And the capable is the optimal word in the story, because just because you know that you are able to do good doesn't mean that you can't choose evil. And so I have a long-term plan for an EMT that we meet in the closing out scenes of issue 1.
The one you gave a name to?
Correct, yeah. You don't get a name if you ain't coming back. Or, you only get a name if you're going to come back.
If you're going to come back, yeah.
And so the importance of this is to illustrate to the reader that concept of your own free will. So even though Joy shows the EMT the good that she can do, and it makes her change her life course from being just an ambulance jockey to going back to school to become a doctor.
Yes.
The first time she loses a patient, she gets a rush. And while she has the capacity to do good and the ability to do the right thing, she makes the conscious choice to get the high that she once felt. And so...
Not where I thought that was going.
Well, and so... Again, this is a long-term plan, and it's just a way to show that while, yes, there is option A, there's also option B.
So there's always that fork in the road. Always you can go.
Yeah.
You can go down whatever path you choose.
And I think that it's a way to create struggle for the heroes, because you don't want it to be smooth sailing all the way.
Yeah, because where's the fun in that?
And so, like I said, it's a spoiler, but again, I don't personally endorse the concept of spoilers. I feel like if something is good, it's good, and if something's bad, it's bad. It can't be made bad by knowing, and it can't be made good by knowing. It either is or it isn't. So,
I respect that.
yeah.
Good stuff. But just so for you guys that read, the script is 17 pages.
Yeah. So I have chosen to write all of the floppies, if you will, as a quarter of what a collected trade paperback comes to be, just like with the 68-page graphic novel of Everlasting Survivors, which is available now via GambleComics.com.
Check the link in the description.
Correct.
And the videos.
But yeah, so the reason I went with that is so that the hope is that the floppies, the 17 pages, will be quite successful, which will then lead to issues 2, 3, and 4, which then will get collected into trade or silverback editions. Yeah.
Hardback, etc.
Yeah. And so, the fact is, I think we talked about this off screen, but the 68 pages that Everlasting Survivors was never the original intent.
Right.
It only happened because So I wrote a 10-page script, and I was like, oh, okay, I like where this is. I wrote a 20-page script, and I was like, okay, another 20. And then, but it was missing stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So I took stock of everything I had, blew it all up.
Chopped and screwed, Frankenstein monster, let the lightning bolt.
Exactly. And once I got to that place where I was like, oh, this is the answer. The reason I picked 68 pages was X-Men, Giant Size #1 was 68 pages.
Yes.
And so I was like, oh, okay, that's a fun little, if you know, and if you don't, it don't hurt anything.
You're right.
But once that got released and that was the first product from Gamble Comics, then I was like, okay, well, let's just stick with it as the premise of what the goal is for a spined book. And so then I just split it into 4 pieces and went down this route.
Gently pieced together.
Yeah.
But yeah, nah.
So another off-topic but just general piece of information, I mean, not terribly off-topic, we're still talking comics and Gamble Comics, but one of my goals is to alternate in release format from superpowers to no powers to superpowers to no powers, and then keep that cycle going, to show the
diversity.
That's the only word that could come to mind, but the range. That's another way of looking at it. The range in the characters and stories that I was gonna say Gamble Comics puts out, but at this point that I'm capable of writing.
Right.
Because right now, Gamble Comics is basically me and artists that I pay to make art. So.
Hey, gotta start somewhere.
Exactly. And, like, let's say, for instance, that when this video comes out, I come into a lot of money, then, hey, that's great. But the fact is, early on, I'm still going to stick with that same idea of, like Jeff Johns from DC, especially in the New 52, he would write the first few issues of things, and then he would just hand it off to somebody else and move on to something, another project. And so I could totally see that
being the future someday.
Yeah, because as I said to Brandon last week, my desire at the moment is kind of to stay with the Grim Owl and Lady Reaper storyline, just because it's kind of where my focus is. It's grounded, it's relatable, and it's also really painful. It's not that that's something to be celebrated, but it's because of that, it's easy to work within that world.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes, and I won't say all the time, but sometimes it gets a little harder to get over the top when it comes to multiple powers, whether it be in Everlasting Survivors or like here with the Uniter and The Unhinged. And so, yeah, that's why I kind of like, and I think that's also one of the reasons why Batman and the Punisher stories do so well, is because they're so grounded and easy to understand.
And it is easier as a reader, because, Batman's one of my favorite characters.
Absolutely.
So it's easier for me to relate to Batman than it is for, like, a Superman.
For sure, yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, I mean, most of the stuff probably won't actually happen, but, like, I could see scenarios similar to, or just as
and a man being a man and making choices is something that is easy for a man to relate to.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
So, like I said, thank you for reading the book. Do you have any questions that you would like to throw out there before we wrap this up?
Not so much a question, just the so something that really stuck out to me was the and spoiler obviously, but was the God, the Father, the crown mask, I think.
Yeah.
How you
the
describe
design.
Design.
Did you go through the?
Yeah, so I looked through the pictures because, I am a Christian, so I do like know some of this stuff, but like a lot of it's like, and I'll say my practicing of my faith has been a little lax.
Well, I'll say this: a lot of the visuals that I use within, and even choices that I make for afterlife. Imagery, thank you, is used to be visually stimulating.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to be 100% accurate because I ain't been there, and
Yeah, I'm about to say,
if I had been, I don't
God
think
willing,
I'd
I ain't gonna be there no time soon.
Exactly,
either.
yeah. And so, so what I did though was, and so as Josiah said, both the faithful Joy and the unbelieving the unbelieving Unhinged, they both, so they get into this massive car accident and they go to the afterlife, and in the afterlife they're weighed and they're measured, and they are both either gifted or cursed based upon what they
were in life.
Yes, exactly. The way that they live their life. And so the God the Father character, I try to give him a different, other than so
traditionally when you picture God, a lot of people go with the big giant dude with the white beard and long hair.
And the more I would look on the internet and try to find something to help me change, the more I just kept running into the same brick wall, the same. So with that, what I did was I took all these descriptors of the different crowns that God possesses, and I merged them into almost an almost mask style of crown that even linked into a larger crown.
Mm-hmm.
And so, do you want to read what the 5 crowns that?
Yep, that was it. I'm 5 steps ahead of you. So you have the crown of glory, the crown of righteousness, the crown of life, the crown of rejoicing, and the incorruptible crown.
And so, while I was going over these statements or these descriptors, I was like, oh, okay, so this is a way that I can change and make the visualization different. And so I placed them in different ways around the head and face. And like I said, they kind of link together. My drawing is fairly crude, but the upside is every artist I've ever worked with has been able to take my less than quality drawings and turn them into outstanding pieces.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the finished product on this one.
And so I'm glad that you actually did thumb through the
yeah, always.
And so, but here's the other thing.
It helps me visualize while I read. So.
Oh, sweet. And that's actually one of the reasons why I always try and collect as many, whether it be my drawing or some other visual aid, to give to the artist is to try and help. But I also, I kind of made the
Holy
Spirit of the Trinity almost, I won't say a trickster, but kind of a trickster.
He's essentially Loki, the way he
in the fact that yeah, exactly. So the Holy Spirit manifestation can change depending on who is visualizing
the spirit at that time.
Correct. And it's to emphasize what it needs to be emphasized at any given time.
Right.
And so I don't know. It was just a thing that I thought was.
No, I thought that was really good. I like that. Cause for the Holy Spirit, it makes sense because even if you read like the Bible or various different stories, the Holy Spirit appears in various different forms throughout the Bible, depending on who it's communicating with, who it's speaking to, who is reaching out at that point in time. So no, I thought for the Holy Spirit, I think biblically that's probably the most accurate thing I've ever seen in my life.
Appreciate you. Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Yeah, it was, like I said, this is quite the journey that this story undertakes because it comes from multiple perspectives. It's got so many different, like I said, visualizations, and I look forward to being able to explore each curse and blessing for both of the characters as time goes on.
Yeah.
Because the reason The Unhinged is called The Unhinged is because he is so attached to the here and now, and specifically Faith, his love interest, that the Trinity can pull him out of time because he's no longer connected to it, and toss him to wherever they need or want him to be to accomplish what's needed. And I look forward to his perspective on that lack of his own choice.
Yeah, I think out of all the stuff you've had me read for you,
Mm-hmm.
because I've read a few scripts for Oz in the past couple months.
It's probably what 6 or 7 probably at this point.
Yeah, at this point, I think out of everything, this was the one like I could visualize the best.
Okay.
Out of all the stuff you've given me, like I think like I'm the most excited to see the artwork for this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See that, and that's something that I love to hear, because BC Brute, for instance,
Yeah.
I wrote explicitly contrary to how I normally write,
Yeah.
but I wrote it in such a way as to give the artist
A lot of free reign.
well, not just free reign, but fun fights,
Yeah.
because that's what he wanted. He was like, "Oh, I want action all the time." I was like, "All right, well, I hope this guy can make it through all the chaos he's about to go through." Oh my goodness! But thank you for reading. Thank you for joining me, and I mean, just thanks for being a part of the channel and all the good stuff. I look forward to you joining me on the 4th edition of Reset-ember, The Reveal, for Lionheart of Humanity, and come back next Friday for the return of Brandon Robinson, when he and I will talk about live action role-playing Ace.